Welcome to the channel, everyone. I've made this channel just to talk about life and weight loss. I've been really experimenting on YouTube and trying a ton of different things, but have a big passion for this niche and these topics. I really love the community that comes with it. I also love the simplicity and high retention I feel like I have on these videos because they are most engaging with the viewer. That said, feel free to comment below your thoughts on today's video, in which I'll talk about my opinion on the best way to approach a tough world as a younger guy. When you look at the world as a guy that's just Gen Z or younger, really even millennial we can count in there, it's definitely very difficult to get any type of hope. A lot of this, especially in the Western world, relates back to financial struggles, and a lot of that we're seeing goes in the things like the housing market. At this point, Gen Z is getting older, you're thinking about buying a house, but you feel very far behind because when you look back at your parents, they just have such an advantage in that department. The houses weren't nearly as expensive, and now you're looking at it and it's just very difficult to afford a home. Everything jacks up in price before you can afford it, and that really extends out as well back to the job market, which is another thing to really get down upon very easily. We know it's very difficult to land even one job. There's an influx now of people with college degrees and stuff, and bachelors and masters, and so that has sort of inflated the market for that. It's made everybody's less valuable. It's now people that are applying for jobs that they're very qualified for and still having no chance. It's gotten to be very, very difficult out there, and the competition has just grown to be so much more than many people can comprehend. You have a lot of these foundational blocks that are being torn apart, and we're seeing that really impact the younger generation, and specifically younger guys, because there are a lot of women that are still struggling with the same thing. I'm not saying that they aren't, but there are different ways that it's a struggle. I would say, for example, as a younger guy getting onto social media or media in general, you do kind of have to have something really going for you. You really have to be good at something a lot of the times, whereas you look at a woman, and not saying they're going to be able to do it without repercussion, but a decent looking woman can honestly hop on social media right now and produce a decent living for herself, just showing off her body, stuff like that. So it's almost a different challenge for men and women in terms of what they're trying to accomplish, and that said, it just makes it look very dull and bleak. And to me, also going more on the point of social media, you look at yourself and you mostly put yourself down if you're a younger man on social media, because you kind of see the very top percentage of people that are basically standing out above the rest. They're doing so much better than you. They're inflating what your perception is compared to the reality, which is there's never been a worse time to live with this case of perception versus reality, because it's so inflated now with social media, again, because of the way the algorithms are set up and what is pinned to the top and what we see of the most and what you even just get access to see, which you never saw before. The wealth, the levels of thought of other people, it's something that really inflates your worldview and makes you feel very bad about yourself, especially when you consider back in the day, you just didn't have as many people to compare yourself to, so you always felt like you were probably at a better standing, and that's why I think people could be a little bit happier or a little bit more insured in the progress that they're making in life. And that's not to mention other stuff like the dating. That's become very difficult, definitely as a guy nowadays, but it's still difficult for women just in the opposite way, to where you almost have a paradox of choice, and at the end of the day, it's just left nobody really satisfied with that happening, and it's really a messy situation where it isn't obvious exactly how you're going to fix it either. We've heard a million times about the man on a dating app and then the women on dating apps. Again, they have the opposite problem, but then still get stuck with that difficult choice that really creates a difficult problem. So no real obvious fix to those kind of issues, right? So this is all bringing us down, and here's the problem. What I've seen a lot of guys do, and what we're seeing now, is a trend of people basically giving up. You go NEET, as they call it, not in education or training. You're not employed either. And I'll say this, and this is where I really have to come in with the approach, in my opinion, and the best one to take as a younger guy in what's a difficult world as far as getting those foundational building blocks in your life that we saw the prior generations have, certainly out in the West, such as in America. I just don't think you can ever give up, throw in the towel, and take this mindset of I'm going to quit, or I'm going to resent this group of people. I'm going to try and smash the whole system. To me, I'm not saying we don't need to rework things. In fact, that's what I'm kind of acknowledging in this video, but you've got to do your best to keep your head down, and to me, just proceed with the responsibility that you know you should be taking in the back of your mind, even when the battle is uphill. This is really the only way you're actually going to make progress in life, and I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's as promising as it was in the past. We're not saying any of that. I'm certainly not making that point. I'm not saying it's even going to be as easy as, again, prior generations had it for stuff like buying a house. spouse, for stuff like finding a well-paying job, a mate to be with. You just have to understand that, and you have to understand it might not. I mean, I'm not saying it can't turn around quickly, because it often can in the younger generation. That's what I've seen with stuff like, I don't know, social media. I mean, you see people's lives change in 90 days, so I'm not saying it can't, but just understand that you might not have what your parents had by the age of 30, and it's a tough fact to face. You might not have the house, the kids' money, etc., but it might not certainly be your fault, though still I'm going to say that giving up, going neat, basically quitting on everything, never even trying, isn't really going to help you. I've seen every person that's ever done that, really, including myself, for so many years, especially throughout high school, middle school, to a smaller degree because I wasn't all as grown up yet, but quitting, it just doesn't get you anywhere. It just makes you feel worse, and I've always felt that riding with no responsibility is worse than taking on a lot of it, even when, again, that battle is really uphill and you're climbing a mountain. And I think the best thing that you can do is just focus on yourself as much as possible and compare yourself today versus who you were yesterday, not so much who you are today versus who else is out there on your Instagram reels that seems to be doing so much better than you and is flexing their car and their money at 20 years old and what they've done. You have to understand you were not in the same situation. You have no idea how it could have played out if you were in that kid's shoes, or had what advantages he had, or knew about what he did, or was in, I don't know, whatever family he's in that's allowing him to get financial access like that. You just don't know, or it's just not your time yet. Maybe you're going to build and be wealthier than that guy you see on social media, but at the end of the day, you didn't get off to the right start. You were messing up in life earlier. You knew things weren't going as well, so now it's going to take some more time to build, and that's the reality of it. So again, that whole media space has really warped expectations in the comparison, and you got to understand with what a lot of people, younger people, do now in this generation, I've done it myself, is I feel like you just compare to the past, and it really just warps what you have to approach it as now, which is, again, putting your head down, understanding that you're not going to have those building blocks built as easily. They're not going to be laid down as easily for you in today's world, maybe because of all the challenges that come with it. And I also want to point out that I think the best thing you can do is really just understand what you do have. And this is a part where people can swing and miss sometimes. And again, it's easy to all pile on the blame, pile on the misery that we're all suffering and just trying to get by day to day and hate life, etc. As a younger generation, look, I understand there's a number of challenges, and we're all going to acknowledge that, and I'll continue to do it as we go on. But you do have to understand that living standards, life, it's generally gotten a lot better, and we've been in a lot worse times in human history, and you do have to acknowledge that. I know it's not necessarily making your immediate life better right now, but you have to keep that in the back of your mind, that some of your challenges today aren't as bad as even the prior generation. So let's just take it back to the boomers, for example. We all talk about how easy they had it in the housing market. Well, I'm not saying that they didn't, but what good is, let's say, being able to buy a house with your younger girlfriend or wife at this point when you get shipped off to Vietnam because we've been sent into a war we shouldn't be in? I mean, you look at what was the modern day Vietnam. It was probably the conflicts the United States had over in Afghanistan and stuff, and that was a war that lasted, I think, just as long, if not more, if not longer than the Vietnam War, and there were so many less deaths because of the evolution of the technology and the way our military strategy went, and there wasn't a draft for that. So I'm just saying, like, there are some things that have gotten a lot better and not as bad in this country, and this really extends out to the globe, but that was just an American comparison for a lot of my audience that might understand. So you do have to acknowledge that and really get into that fact, and I'm not saying it heals the economic problems that we have, the collegiate problems that we have, a lot of these other systems, but that's something to always keep in mind before just giving up, because there is still a lot of opportunity in the world today, and you don't have, and that was just an example, one factor like that clawing away at you at the moment. But with the changing conditions of the world, really the best thing you can do as a man is just try your best to get ahead and really pay attention to what changes are sticking and put your chips there. And one example of this is we've all seen artificial intelligence, the rise of artificial intelligence, AI, growing over the years. You kind of know at this point, most people acknowledge it's definitely going to be a part of the future. The degree to which that is all debatable, but we understand that it's coming, and you probably can't stop what's coming as far as that's concerned. So you probably should maybe get to know AI a little bit. Not saying you got to be 100% expert, and the technology keeps changing day to day. I mean, even a year ago, it was wildly different than it is right now. But you probably maybe want to get ahead on that, maybe learn a little bit about it. So maybe when the next time there's something to do with AI comes out that you can jump on and have more knowledge than most people, by the time that comes around, maybe you're taking advantage of that to, let's say, help you grow a big business or something like that, or a group or organization, well, you're going to have the uphill climb on everybody there. You're going to be halfway up the mountain when everybody else is at the bottom. That's something to keep in mind, and I believe that's the best way to really approach life, is just take that responsibility, still stick with the older mindset, but really acknowledge the fact that yes, things have changed. Yeah, it's probably going to be more difficult for you, but the complaining, the sticking back in your house, just playing games all day, quitting on life, not getting a job, stuff like that, it really doesn't do you any good, and it's hard to break out of that. And I understand there is some freedom to not taking the responsibility, but at the end of the day, that's really not getting you any closer to the goals that you always wanted to accomplish. And let's just think about it. I mean, there's a ton of men already doing this right now, and they have in the past as well, and we can say that trench for people choosing this route has only gotten deeper, and it hasn't gotten any better for a lot of these guys. It's only gotten more hopeless. We got to stop choosing that route. We got to, as men, I think, just be able to do a better job, and again, put your head down as best you can. Understand it's not fair, but what are you going to do? And then appreciate what you do have on your side that is helping you at least have what you have in today's world. But to wrap up the video, just keep in mind this is my opinion, but the best approach to me in the world is, as a younger guy in this it's tougher world as far as those building block conditions, you got to keep your head down, work as hard as you can, understand those cards probably going to be stacked against you in a way, but try your best not to do much comparing to others, because it's really not an equal playing field. Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to comment down below if you have any thoughts on the video. If you like the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. Hope you check out the Instagram and TikTok. That'll be shown on screen. And feel free to shoot an email to me if you'd like to further the discussion one-on-one. That email will be shown on screen, but the email is pmloss125@gmail.com. Thanks again. Hope you tune in to the next video that will be out soon.